Hello creative cooks, welcome back to another episode of the Creative Phoebe Cooks channel. I'm your host Phoebean and today we're making GOB3. It's also called red, Yor Ke Gari, Gari beans and plantains. Ghanaians, if you're here, let me know if I'm saying this right. It has a good amount of components which makes it a perfect recipe for meal prep, especially for the week. We're going to start off by preparing the beans. I am referencing how I prepared the beans for nyambe nyebe, a recipe I made in January when I was featuring Gambian recipes. So it's a very similar way, actually it's the same way I'll be preparing the beans to make the Yor Ke Gari. Sort through the beans, wash it till it's clean, and soak it in clean water. It's actually best to do this overnight. That way your beans gets a chance to soak, plump up, double in size the following day, and it will be ready and softened for you to use and cook to perfection. I used 425 grams of dried black-eyed peas, and now that they have plumped up, I'm going to rinse them and then put them in a pot with some clean fresh water for them to boil. They cook for about an hour. Sometimes it can even go up to 90 minutes depending on how much beans you're cooking. So if you're making this for the week, it makes sense that it will take some time so that you can have some food prepared well in advance for the week. All throughout March, I'll be sharing popular Ghanaian recipes that I have on my list. If you have any that you want to make a request for, let me know in the comment section below. In January, I shared Gambian recipes, and in February, I shared Japanese recipes. So this is month of March. And since Ghana just celebrated their 68th independence, what a great way to celebrate the country of Ghana. As a matter of fact, my mother used to make Yor Ke Gari for us in my younger years. And mommy, I hope you're watching this episode and let me know what you think about it. So here I have a large stock pot. Add the washed black-eyed peas to the pot together with some water. Depending on how mushy you want the beans to be, you can add in 2.5 up to 3 liters of water. The beans will cook through until they turn very mushy, and there has to be some liquid left in it. That way the gari will have some liquid to soak in and combine with the beans well. While I've already set the beans to cook, I'm going to move on to the next step of this recipe, which is to make the red pepper sauce, because I'm not using palm oil. So if you don't have palm oil, you've not ordered palm oil online or from the African store, here's a great way to make a substitute ingredient / component for this recipe. I'm quartering up these peppers, adding them to the bowl, and I'm going to be saving the seeds so I can sow them and have some peppers this summer. So if you'd like to see how I do that, be sure to leave a comment below and I will feature that in a video. Together with the peppers, I'm going to prepare some onions, garlic, ginger. These are excellent aromatics, spices that will really make the pepper sauce taste amazing. And aside from using the pepper sauce to have gobe, you can also use it to eat with rice. You can use it on your fish or your chicken, especially when you want to use it in different ways throughout the week to make your meals exciting. Peel the ginger because the skin tends to be a bit bitter depending on what you're making. I don't mind it, but for this recipe I'll prefer to peel it because then I do not want the peelings to be floating in the sauce. Peel it, set it aside, and save all your peelings. That way you can make some vegetable stock to make some stews, soups, whatever it is that you prefer. You can also have it as a really good morning elixir as you start your day instead of drinking a green juice, red juice, whatever that is. I'll be blending the aromatics together with some water. So I added a little bit in the blender and saved some aside so that after I finish blending the first portion of it, I'll be able to have some room to add the remaining aromatics that need to be blended. And after doing that, I'm going to save them in a bowl before I get ready to cook the sauce. If you're loving this video and excited to make some gobe, be sure to like. Yes, give this video a huge thumbs up. Subscribe so you don't miss out on any new uploads. I just shared a plant-based grocery haul. So if you didn't get a chance to see it, be sure to check it out. I'll also link it in the description box below. And be sure to also share this video with your loved ones. That way y'all can talk about gobe. Y'all can go to the grocery store and shop for all the ingredients you need to make it. And I'm excited to hear your thoughts on this recipe in the comment section below. Alright, let's continue to make this recipe. Alternatively, you can use a food processor to blend all your ingredients, but if you really want them to be fine, I highly suggest that you use a blender together with some water. That way everything is well pulverized and homogeneous. The beans are doing well, they're boiling. I'm just checking on them, seeing how they're doing. I'm gonna let it continue to boil because at this point there's still so much water that it needs to reduce down and the beans have to absorb it. And be sure to leave a crack so that the lid doesn't completely cover the pot, because when you're boiling beans it has a potential for it to overflow and you don't want that to happen because there's a lot of flavor in the liquid. Add some water to your blender to rinse out the blender, but I'll be using this portion to add to the pot while I'm making the red pepper sauce. Add some extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, whichever you prefer, to your stock pot and turn in your heat to high. At some point I'll reduce it to a medium so that the sauce can continue cooking. Add in the blended goods. I'm also going to add in the water from the blender after rinsing the blender. Then I will season the sauce so that it can begin to get some flavor, absorb those seasonings, and be flavorful. Since you can have it with rice, you can have it with gari, have it to make gobe, you name it. I've gotten some Himalayan salt, some ground coriander seed, ground fennel seed, as well as some allspice powder, and you know it, some red chili pepper flakes. Stir these seasonings into your sauce until it's well combined and allow the sauce to bubble up, because what's going to happen is the water will reduce, the sauce will be a bit thicker. Make sure nothing is sticking to the bottom of the pot and continue to cook the sauce. I'm checking on the beans. It is soft, but it still has a good amount of time to get going. Now that it's already soft, it's a good time for you to add in the Himalayan salt. If you add in the salt at the beginning of the cooking process, it would makes it hard for the beans to cook well. It can also make the water a bit hard, which will reduce the timing at which the beans will be cooked. Am I saying that right? I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So allow the beans to continue to cook even after adding the salt, and as it continues to absorb more water, it will get mushy. The red pepper sauce is looking good already. I'm adding in some fresh thyme sprig to really add a good burst of freshness to this sauce. If I didn't do that, I would feel like the sauce was missing something. You really want a nice balance in flavors when you're eating these recipes. So adding in thyme or rosemary or even oregano, it has to be fresh, will really make a difference in the taste. See how dry the sauce is getting? When I say dry, I mean the water content has reduced well to the point wherein the sauce is not soupy, but it's more saucy. You can scoop it and it can really have a good consistency. The beans is doing well. At this point, you can use the back of your wooden spoon to really mush it down well. It still has good water content. It's not watery and it's not dry. So this is a good point to turn off your stove after the beans is cooked. It has enough salt, because what's going to happen is when you refrigerate it, the water is going to coagulate. And you might have to add a little bit more water to it when you're warming it up to make your meals over the course of the week. It's time to make some plantains. And it turns out that I have been making something very similar to kelewele, which is a spiced plantain recipe that Ghanaians are known for making when they're making gobe, wache, jollof rice. Y'all just know how to do that. And I've been doing this without even knowing that it is a version of kelewele. So I'm slicing up these plantains. You can either slice them up lengthwise or in smaller pieces at a slant, and season them with some olive oil, cinnamon powder, as well as some allspice powder, a nice sprinkle of fine Himalayan salt, chili pepper flakes for a nice burst in spice, and massage these plantains well so that they're well coated with the seasonings. I'm going to bake them instead of frying them because I really don't want too much oil in my food. So I'm going to bake them at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 minutes, making sure to flip them halfway through and continue baking them until they are nice and golden, and give it a taste to see how well they turned out. Everything is ready. The plantains are ready, the sauce is ready, the beans is ready. It's very similar to nyambe nyebe, a popular Gambian recipe I grew up eating in the Gambia. And look at that, they literally look similar. Cassava is what you use to make gari, and gari is what you use to make gobe, and cassava is nyambe to make nyambe nyebe. Oh my goodness. I just love how West African recipes have some similar components, similar versions of making it. And guys, gobe is ready. Ghanaians, tell me, how do you feel about this rendition of this popular Ghanaian recipe? So you have to put everything together in a spoon. Make sure you mix the gari into the beans. Make sure it absorbs it well. Get some of that plantain. And it's my first time trying it with avocado. Sometimes I see gobe served with boiled eggs, but since this is a plant-based version, I just make sure that everything on that plate is plant-based. There you have it, creative cooks. Gobe in grand style. Get the full recipe on my website at creativephoebe.com. If you guys don't have sweet plantains, you can also use sweet potatoes to make it, but that's not the most authentic way to make it. So I highly suggest that you get your hands on some ripened plantains. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and we should chat again in my next episode. Later!